Hello everyone, welcome to Suited for Gaming. Today we'll be looking at Rise of the Tomb Raider on the Xbox One.
Throughout history, the boldest have dared to go further. They risk death, and in doing so live on forever. What drives these few to the ends of the earth? The desire to discover something more. The search for something greater. The world is full of unanswered questions. Beyond all limits or reason, the answers await. For some, discovering the secrets of the world is the only way to live.
Lara Croft, being one of the most iconic characters to grace video games, has seen a lot of revisions in the attempt to maintain relevancy in an ever-changing industry. She's gone from controlling like a tank to being a poor Resident Evil clone, from action-packed quick-time events to isometric view running and gunning. Basically, she's the seemingly old lady who's into the latest trends. This time around is no different as she continues her journey initiated in Tomb Raider. That's the Tomb Raider with the red and black text, by the way, not to be mistaken with the Tomb Raider with the goldish text. Tomb Raider, with the red and black text, decided to reboot the entire franchise and tell the story of Lara's not-so-humble beginnings. It threw out most of the things that made the Lara we knew so distinct and recognizable, and decided to approach her from a perspective that would make Nathan Drake proud. Third-person action-adventure galore with cinematic flares was the name of the game. And in light of the reboot's favorable reception, they decided to make Rise of the Tomb Raider, and this time around, they not only decided to make Nathan Drake proud, they decided to make other games proud as well. Vantage points? We have that. Stealth kills? We have that too. Bonfires? Check. Creepy merchants in the middle of nowhere? Check and check.
I've been stockpiling gear. It's yours, if you can pay for it.
But seriously, this is all in good fun. While most of the gameplay elements can trace their roots to some recent examples of successful games, Rise of the Tomb Raider combines all of them to create a unique and unforgettable experience, especially when it comes to the gameplay and mechanics.
Come and try! Come on!
Take position!
I'd like to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to Crystal Dynamics for avoiding the open world fad that has been plaguing the gaming industry over the past few years. I can only imagine how tempting it was to make the new Tomb Raider series open world, but where other developers have succumbed, Crystal Dynamics has understood that quantity does not necessarily mean quality. What we have in this game is the next best thing that acts as the intermediary between a linear and open world game. It's a hub-based game. A hub-based game that implements the concepts very well by providing enough room for a player to explore the environment without necessarily feeling limited, and at the same time avoiding a pointlessly open and empty world which exists for the sake of existing. And it's this very concept that defines the new Tomb Raider series as a whole. It relies on creating branching paths and areas within hubs that are only accessible after you acquire special weapons or skills. This concept, that you'll probably recognize from games like Metroid, Legend of Zelda, or Batman Arkham Asylum, creates an ecosystem that allows engagement between the player and the environment to build upon itself through item upgrades and world exploration, ultimately resulting in a very well-paced game. Rise of the Tomb Raider gives you a vast area to explore, but never makes you feel like you have to kill time trying to figure out a way into some sort of optional tomb. The game does a good job of giving you enough of a nudge to rouse your curiosity, and then it steps back and leaves the rest up to you. Despite not being truly open world, it is, to me, the best example of the ultimate freedom, and I hope more games that are planning to make that knee-jerk jump to open world settings will at least tone it down to this style of gameplay. But map design choices aside, this game also overhauls its approach to combat when compared to its predecessor. This time around, there's more variety on combat options that include crafting, smoke bombs, Molotov cocktails, strip mines, poison arrows, and so on. All these additions add a new layer to the gameplay and are very effective in high-tension situations. This newly optimized ability to craft gear fleshes out the game because it encourages you to explore the environment in order to forage for key items or ingredients. Aside from weapons, the biggest addition is the option to stealth your way past enemies using shrubbery, cover systems, or vantage points. While the inclusion of the stealth mechanic is wanted, it's usually only effective upon returning to an area after clearing it, because most of the game's events are usually scripted encounters that require head-on confrontations, which in the end makes the stealth mechanic feel a bit gimmicky. And you can tell that it's a work in progress because the enemy AI struggles to adapt to this mechanic with fair consistency. There are times when enemies can't spot you when you're practically face to face with them.
So this is really it, huh? If they do find the Atlas in there, what's next?
The Atlas is a map. It's supposed to point the way to whatever the natives are protecting out here. The divine source that Constantine is after.
Over there!
But there are also times when they will spot you from a mile away and will stay fixated on you regardless of what you do or where you are.
I think someone's out there.
Contact! Got her! You got it! Grenade out! Throw me a grenade! Light her up! Get clear! Flush her out!
Unless you're playing on legendary difficulty like I was, or you've completely run out of resources, it's usually just easier to pick off the enemies you encounter instead of sneaking past them or stealth killing them. And on that note, you'll have quite a number of options to go on a rampage. You'll have your selection of rifles, shotguns, pistols, and even climbing axes for those of you who like to get up close and personal. However, much like the previous Tomb Raider with the red and black text, you'll find yourself spending the most time with the bow and arrow, which is easily the most versatile and well-balanced weapon in the game. The bow and arrow is the modern-day replacement for the dual pistols that were synonymous with Lara Croft in the past. And while combat is more of a defining characteristic of the new Lara Croft, the developers still did a great job of accommodating us old-school gamers who enjoyed the series for the more classic elements of what made a Tomb Raider game a tomb raiding game, list of which is platforming. Platforming in this game is fun. Don't get me wrong, it's not as technical as the old games where Lara moved like a tank, but this time around it's more manually engaging and dependent on a quick thinking. You can, and you will, die during platforming sessions. They do trigger quick-time events if you barely clear a long jump, but all other things considered, the platforming doesn't hold your hand and it doesn't utilize the magnet mechanic where a character always latches to a ledge when you jump. You have full control of Lara, and it gets more complex and exciting as you unlock mobility-centric tools further into the game. The other improvement is actual tomb raiding and puzzle solving. In the previous Tomb Raider game with the red and black text, the tombs were disappointing. They were basically small rooms with unengaging puzzles that led to underwhelming treasures like salvage and experience points, with the occasional cache locations. This time around, most of the tombs are larger with intertwining pathways, platforming challenges, and fun puzzles that eventually lead to worthwhile treasures that consist of major weapon parts or even ability enhancements that improve Lara's skills in some way. And that's yet another great thing about this game. There are several collectibles scattered all around the world that make sense in the context they exist in. You can find lockboxes that contain weapon parts or equipment to upgrade existing weapons. You can find monoliths that you'll have to decipher to show you where some coins are buried. You can then use these coins to buy very useful equipment that will make your life so much easier. It's very refreshing to come across a game with collectibles that directly impact the character or the journey. And that being said, they're also what initially seem like pointless challenges you can do to pass the time, like break X amount of laptops or throw item Y into item Z and so on and so forth. But realistically speaking, these challenges exist to bolster a more passive but new addition to the series called Expeditions, which relies in part on credits you gain from completing the challenges. Expedition has a few game modes that encourage revisiting sections of the game you've already completed, but the two primary modes that stand out are the Remnant Resistance and the Score Attack modes. Remnant Resistance allows you to replay specific areas of the game with new goals or challenges, and Score Attack has you replaying sections of the main game with the expectation of completing them under a specific time frame and building up a combo meter to get as high a score as possible in the online leaderboards. While the modes are welcome, it gets a bit dicey when you consider that they're reliant on in-game modifiers called Expedition cards. Expedition cards are available for purchase using the in-game credits you earn by playing through the game and completing the challenges, but they're also attainable via microtransactions with real money. Now, there are many modifiers, but they all fall under buffing and debuffing Lara's capabilities, or simply altering her appearance. The concept is that if you debuff or handicap Lara during these challenges, you'll be eligible to earn bonus points or higher multipliers. The cards come in two variants. There are foil cards and common cards. For the most part, you'll get the common cards. The distinguishing characteristic of these cards is that they can only be used once before they're lost, whereas foil cards are permanent fixtures and can be reused as many times as possible. This feature and its implementation unfortunately leads to the extremely loved practice of paying to win. Someone with money to burn can easily buy these card packs and make their way up the leaderboards in no time, while the gamers without disposable income are left grinding for hours on end to be able to purchase the card packs. Unfortunately, I do have to take away points for this. Now, I'm not necessarily against microtransactions when it comes to games, but when it's executed in a way that will give one player a leg up over another in a competitive setting, it's just downright despicable.
It is the greatest cruelty of life that we're all too swiftly taken from it. We age, we decay, we die. But what do we leave behind? Bones? Dust? What of the soul? Does it endure beyond our earthly existence? I believe it does. A truth lies at the heart of many myths and stories. A truth not of science, but something more profound. The key to unlocking everlasting life. I may have found the next piece to the puzzle, but I'm not alone in this search.
Rise of the Tomb Raider picks up where the previous game left off. With Lara's newly found realization that there's more to the world than she once thought possible, she delves ever deeper into her late father's research. Having been declared a madman for considering the supernatural as a possibility, her father died with his reputation in shambles. Ashamed that she ever doubted her father, Lara then sets out on the search of the city of Kitesh, where an artifact granting immortality is supposedly located. Armed only with the unrelenting determination to prove her father's sanity, Lara begins her new journey into the wild lands of Siberia. The story starts off very compelling, and it is, in general, well presented through occasional cutscenes that focus on the present, and through artifacts and journals scattered throughout the game that flesh out past events. The combination of the two works seamlessly to paint a perfect picture of Lara's journey as well as the events that took place prior to her arrival. Finding them is always a blast, especially if you can get over the idea that people are just randomly recording audio logs and tossing them around for anyone to find. But it's a game, and it has to convey the story in some manner, so I won't really nitpick on that issue. I also have to give kudos to the writers for venturing into volatile territory. The subject matter is highly religious in scope, specifically touching a lot on the Christian religion. They don't blatantly indicate that they're talking about Christianity or that the prophet they keep referring to is actually Jesus, but the images and the journals scattered throughout the game are pretty clear about the fact, and it will be recognizable in the first 5 minutes or so of the game. I liked it because it held my attention throughout, and I couldn't wait to see the creative direction they took with the existing theological subject. And another positive aspect that the subject matter introduces is the exploration of the human condition when it comes to the ambiguous distinctions between good and evil. And there's no clearer example than the two main antagonists in the game. They work for a religious order referred to as Trinity, who are in search for the same relic that Lara is after. When you figure out the reasons behind their motives, it becomes very apparent that their end goal might actually have some validity. Their characters are designed in a way that makes you feel some sort of sympathy for them. From the inside looking out, their goal is justified, and unfortunately this is where the plot goes downhill. In the attempt to strip away that layer of humanity the writers created, the antagonists are always oppressing someone or something with extreme prejudice, to the point where it becomes difficult to suspend your disbelief. The trouble the writers go through to wipe away the complexity of the antagonists, in the end, compromises what would have been a deep and complex story where there's no black and white. It instead just falls flat on traditional cliches and takes the easy way out at the end of the game, and that's in more ways than one. There isn't too much to delve into as far as the audio is concerned. It's filled with orchestral music you would expect from the series that increases in volume and tempo as things get intense, and tempers everything down when there's little to no activities on screen. Sound effects also fall under the same category. Everything sounds like you'd expect it to sound, and that also applies to voice acting when it comes to the major characters in the game. There are a few audio logs or journals that sound amateurish, but they're not bad enough or frequent enough to dock points. It's all standard fare audio. It's not good, it's not bad, it gets the job done. Visuals. Now this is where the game really caught my attention. It caught it the minute I started my adventure. The lighting in the game is amazing as you see it shine directly from the sky or even beaming through ice or crevices. The particle effects and physics on screen are well implemented as well, especially with fogs that reduce your field of vision and snow which behaves realistically as you interact with it. Which actually leads me to the animation. Lara has a range of movements and restrictions that exist outside the gamer's control. She shivers and tries to stay warm when in cold environments. She'll warm her hands over fire when she's near it. She reinforces her hairband after swimming or wading through water. Her body contorts uncomfortably if you didn't time your jump just right, and she twitches convincingly when debris from enemy fire flies around. This little additions help to breathe life into her character, and I found myself empathizing more and more with her situation as she reacts with and to the environment the same way I would if I found myself in a similar situation. Unfortunately, not a lot of games employ this sort of animation, but I would like to see more of it as we delve deeper into the current gaming generation. Naughty Dog set the standard and it works. More games need to adopt it. And performance-wise, the game runs very steady, very consistently. I don't by any means have measuring tools to gauge performance, but I never felt a frame drop, I never experienced slowdowns, I didn't even run into glitches or freezes. The game is optimized perfectly. It's not really something that I should be praising, but realistically, in this day and age, getting a game that's polished on release is a rarity and it should be recognized. And finally, leaving the best for last, the areas, the architecture, the level design, it's all mind-blowingly beautiful. They're all designed in a way that makes geographical sense. From the frozen river that has weathered away its banks to animal caves strategically placed away from most human contact. They're all fun to explore, especially when you consider that they're just as accessible vertically as they are horizontally. And when you think you've seen it all, every once in a while, you'll make your way through a random cave and discover a canyon or waterfall that leads to a grand temple or crypt that will just take your breath away. In conclusion, I'm not going to beat around the bush with this one. Rise of the Tomb Raider is a spectacular game. If you're sitting on the fence on this one, jump off and get it. It currently retails at $60 and I feel the content justifies the price. You can probably make your way through the game in around 15 to 20 hours, and you can easily squeeze another 10 to 20 hours if you go for all the collectibles, tombs, side quests. By the way, yeah, I forgot to mention that, didn't I? This game does have basic side quests that you can complete for NPCs, and they're all pretty fun too. And even if you don't want to do any of the extra stuff, the main game itself is pure fun. Next to the Wild Hunt, Rise of the Tomb Raider is probably my favorite game of the year. I would have liked to do a giveaway competition for it, but I haven't figured out how I'd like to approach it for consoles just yet. You can thank Microsoft and Square Enix for that, by the way. Well, that's it for this review. I really hope you enjoyed it, and as usual, thanks for watching.